Good afternoon, everyone. Sending you the warmest regards from Jakarta, Indonesia. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining this webinar, Managed Data Platform, How to Scale Business Using Tech. This would be a webinar from Endeavor Indonesia for its Scale Up Growth Program in partnership with Aiven. My name is Sutami from the Entrepreneur Experience team of Endeavor Indonesia, and I'm really delighted to be your host for the day. Hi, Chong. Hi, Mas Adi.
Hello.
Hello,
through,
hello.
yeah, through Endeavor Scale Up Growth Program, I think I've mentioned this already. We support high potential, fast growing entrepreneurs in Indonesia. It is a non-dilutive growth accelerator that gives entrepreneurs access to resources, successful founders, and also industry leaders, and also mentors across Endeavor's local and global network. This would be to help them to scale their businesses to the next level. And currently, we have 3 successful batches comprised of 32 fastest growing companies with 61 most promising entrepreneurs. And during the program, we have 130 local and global mentors and also coaches with a total of 167 total of hours donated in mentoring, coaching, and also panel discussion. You could learn more about the program by visiting our website in scaleupgrowthprogram.org. Okay, I think we all know that tech plays a big part in making companies achieve their goals and vision even faster, also to scale faster, as I've mentioned. And through data, we can learn how the market behaves and also make the right decisions based on it. And today we have 2 awesome speakers, Mas Ahmad Afriyadi, or we can call him Mas Adi, the VP Engineering from one of our Endeavor entrepreneur companies, Evermos, also from our Scale Up Growth Program. Hi, Mas Adi. And also,
Hi,
yeah, hello. And also Tan Chong Yong, or we could call him Chong, the Senior Solution Architect of Aiven. Hi, Chong.
Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Good.
good.
Excited to be here.
Yeah.
Very excited to have a discussion with you two both as well. I think just like what the webinar title mentioned, yeah. Before we dig deeper into how we can obviously leverage data for scaling up, I think allow me to take everyone in the audience to first understand about like the landscape. So Chong, Aiven was established in 2016, right? If I'm not mistaken. So it's been around almost 8 years, yeah, until now, yeah. With that years of experience and also like around 10 locations worldwide, if I'm not mistaken, if that's correct.
Yeah, that's correct. Sorry, I
Yeah.
was on mute. Yeah, that's correct.
yeah. Around 10 locations worldwide, with one of the hubs in Singapore. Ivan must have learned and also like identified, right, about like the Southeast Asia market and also ecosystem. I think could you share with us like what's the current state of the digital native companies in Southeast Asia?
Okay, sure. So as part of our expansion to the APAC region last year, what we did was we conducted a survey with more than 800 IT leaders in Southeast Asia to understand the strategies and future priorities of like digital native companies. So our definition of digital native companies are companies that are born in the digital era and that they're able to scale their businesses at a much faster rate than traditional business. And this is usually achieved with the help of data. So when we conducted the survey, the results showed that decision makers in Southeast Asia are younger than the ones in the US, with 74% of them between age 20 to 39. We also have employees that are working for digital natives. They do prioritize training. They care about working towards excellence, and they care about what they are doing. So they are also generally more concerned than protecting their jobs compared to their US counterparts. And this means that this is quite interesting because it means that the employees here in general, they care about working on meaningful stuff and they care about working on exciting projects. And they also care about job security, and all in all, this all ties in well with employee satisfaction and employee retention. And then we also found out that digital native companies also grow at a much faster pace than traditional businesses, with around 84% of them receiving funding, with nearly half of them receiving Series B funding. Now, of course, the current economic climate is slightly different compared to 2 years ago. And because 2 years ago, the situation was more of growth at all costs. So you see investors investing heavily into startups, and startups really spending money on different growth areas, R&D, so that they can acquire more market share. And today, things have slightly shifted a little bit. The economic situation is now more geared towards generating revenue and sustainability. And this does not mean that digital natives have stopped growing. It just means that the strategy that they are using to grow needs to be refined a little. And traditionally, when we talk about how they grow, there's a few growth accelerators behind it. And these are especially important today. We need to think about things like having a successful digital strategy. And this means having a really solid and coherent offline to online strategy. We talk about how businesses need to think about operating online and how to deliver value really quickly. They also need to think about the potential market base. This is no doubt expedited by the pandemic situation. And it turns out that the pandemic actually serves as a really good opportunity for digital natives to compete and gain market share from the traditional businesses, especially those with a weaker online presence. So what we found out is that because the founders themselves, the decision makers, they're pretty young, aged between 20 to 39, 40-ish. They are quite good at adapting to the current landscape of operating online. And we see these companies having a huge edge over the more traditional brick and mortar businesses model. The last point about growth is really having a flexible data infrastructure. And this is all about having a robust and highly scalable infrastructure to cater to explosive growth, because we do live in a time where it's very easily to become viral really quickly. And you want to be ready for that possibility that some marketing campaign blew up and then you can cater to a massive amount of customers all at once. Now, of course, like it's not all just like the growth side of things. There's also quite a bit of challenges associated with the current state today. We have things like lacking of skills in sales and marketing. It's actually quite difficult to find a right fit. Like for marketing, we look at social media effectiveness. Right, there's so many different platforms today. We have LinkedIn, we have Reddit, we have Instagram, we have like all those sort of things. And it is also difficult to find people with the right skill set, because these skill sets are traditionally not taught in a marketing sort of a run book. But today, businesses digital natives themselves, they have to adapt to finding out which audience lives on which platform and do their marketing accordingly. And then we talk about sales. Sales is also very different today. In the past 2 years, it was easier to sell stuff because of the amount of money that's floating out there. But today, the skill sets in the sales personnel needs to be tweaked a little bit. And there might need to be retraining and readjusting to figure out the right fit for different roles. And then we talk about customer centricity. We need to identify the right target audience, and this can take many rounds of data-driven analysis to get it right. And in today's time, organizations and digital natives, they don't want to be too spread out. They want to focus on some of the key priorities that have been giving them revenue, and adjust their efforts more onto these areas to get even more growth. Of course, the last point I'll cover is about having a lack of scalable data infrastructure. So this is especially a huge problem for startups and digital natives, because if they have infrastructure that's unable to grow with growth, this can be very costly to them. Like think about having an e-commerce platform that goes down during your sale days, 10, 11, 12. This will have quite a big impact on the company's reputation. And this is something which digital natives, they have to take note of. So in other words, I say a lot of stuff, but in other words, after having a well-formulated team and strategy, it's very important to build your business on top of scalable IT infrastructure. And I think Evermos here is a great example of a company that understood this, and execution is really on point. They have a great digital strategy, and they're also able to harness data for their growth.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Yeah, because from like the both of the accelerators and so like the blocks or like the challenges that you mentioned, both have um the data infrastructure like in both of them, right? Like the accelerator would be like again like a flexible and robust data infrastructure, and the challenge is also data infrastructure not scalable, but not being scalable enough. It's a challenge. Yeah, and also yeah, maybe just like to echo my team from the chat box. If you have like a burning question about managed data platform, about data infrastructure, feel free to drop it in the question box, and yeah, we can discuss it here. Thank you, Chong, for your answer. For Mas Adi, as Evermos, as like one of the biggest social commerce startup in Indonesia, would you mind sharing to us like what's the core business of Evermos, and how does data management plays a huge role in the growth of the business?
Sure. Thanks, Utami. Yeah. Let me tell about the Evermos background a little bit. So basically, Evermos is, as you know, is a social commerce platform, but we have vision of that everyone have a fair chance of achieve economic prosperities. So we believe that people's economy is a foundation, right? We call it economic gotong royong, which means prioritizes growth from the bottom and supporting local SMEs. As Chong mentioned, there are many opportunities that haven't discovered yet with the pandemic. They have to adapt. The SMEs have to adapt in short time manner, because they have to move from the offline market to basically digital market, which there are a lot of obstacles behind it, and we found that obstacle can be solved by bridging people with people. So bridging business, small medium enterprises, to people who probably need more incomes. They they want to learn about businesses. They want to improve their financial state in their family, right? And that's basically FMOS. So we build a bridge between the SMEs to grow by partnering with resellers. We have like more than 100,000 of resellers throughout Indonesia. You know, Indonesia um, has many islands, right? Thousand of islands, which probably a bigger challenges for SMEs, because they have limited capitals. They have difficulties in reaching logistic and all. So we build the ecosystem for them to grow as well. We enable people from tier 2 to tier 5 cities to have additional income, or maybe achieve financial state that we call it prosperity for Indonesian people. So we started on 2018, and uh, right now we have recorded millions transactions through our reseller platforms, and we have enabled brands, local brands, the SMEs to grow to next level. And then we also enable resellers, which probably they don't have any sales background yet. We improve their sales skill by attending to communities, give them trainings, and then they scale up. We, and that's basically the scale of the Evermos right now. And then yeah, data platform plays important part and on that part, because we need reliable data platform which could hold millions of transaction making decision support system for the brands, for the reseller to solve to sell to the end customer. We bridge the logistics system for brand could deliver the orders on time. Yeah, so basically that's the idea of Evermos. And that data platform, as I mentioned, and as as Chong mentioned, that reliability, scalability of the data platform is needed because we are growing rapidly. Recently, we also have new services which uh, targeted basically the same people, but they have scale up. Basically, the brand that has scale up, they might be having their own online stores or storefronts, and then a professional reseller who probably has uh, become micro entrepreneurs who probably sell their own stuff and others. So we have new system called Everpro, and Everpro is targeted to them. The Everpro provide additional value chain support for those kind of partners that we have by opening up our logistic backbones to them. We provide them easier solution to connect to all the 3PLs in Indonesia because Indonesia is a multi-islands company and they need to pick the best 3PL for them. So we provide easier way to connect to them instead of connecting to each of 3PLs. We provide them one-stop solution for that. Also, brands that scale up and also maybe professional reseller who are tech savvy utilizes ads uh, to in their business as well. They have FB ads, Google ads, or in other medias. We also provide solution for them in ads management. Also for brands that want to expand more to other marketplaces because we we how our vision is to help brands to grow to achieve economic prosperity. So we don't see the marketplace as a competitor, but we see how we could build a solution for brand to grow, right? And that's all of the complexities need the backbone that reliable. So basically, uh, from the start, we are using cloud infrastructure. We put all of the system servers in cloud and then the data as well in cloud. So yeah, basically that's the uh, things about Evermos that I would share.
Yeah. I get that it's like pretty complex here. The data complexity behind Evermos itself, because you're like managing so many stakeholders, and I think like number of SMEs in Indonesia is also very high, right? Okay.
Right.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing, Mas Adi. Now back to Ivan. I think we would also like to learn about, the importance or maybe like the secret sauce in winning the data infrastructure.
Right. I would say secret sauce is a bit of a strong word. There's no like magic formula to completely game the system, but there are definitely some things to think about that will increase your success of having a successful data infrastructure. So there are four things that I like to briefly touch on: open source, the cloud, managed services, and having a flexible data infrastructure. So for open source, you would want to select a technology tool stack that is open source, and as much as possible 100% open source. And there are various reasons for that. First of all, open source is free and easy to get started. There's no fees. So this is really a good way to experiment with something new quickly, see if it fits, and then get going and push that to production. It's also easy for you to avoid vendor locked-in, and you can switch between providers easily. Think about this situation where you are starting your business. you're running some workloads on it, sure, it may be a license model, it's free or very low cost, but as you scale up a couple of years later, a couple of months later, many months down the road, you realize that the licensing fee gets more and more expensive for more users. And by the time, if you want to switch, the cost of switching is actually very huge because you're already building your business and growth around that licensing model. And this could be a very dangerous thing to be in because you're at the mercy of the vendor and you're basically sort of dependent on whether they are they want to charge you at a premium or not. So that's very dangerous. And if you want to grow at scale, open source definitely will help to eliminate that sort of risk. You also want to use open source to have a trusted technology that's already proven to work across many industries, many communities. Let's talk about like Postgres database, for example. We have Uber, Instagram, Netflix, Twitch, all these large companies that are using open source technologies. And many of them also have developer blogs where they share about what's the best practices, what's the design philosophy. And it's all about learning and growing with each other. So that's the spirit of open source. And by using open source, you also have access to a larger talent pool. And this allows you to hire faster and be more agile. Like today, many universities are already adopting open source software as part of their curriculum. And this is because while it's free to get started, students can quickly incorporate in their project. And when they learn those open source skill sets, they go in the industry and companies start using them. The schools are teaching relevant skill sets. And when they're using it in industry in different projects, it gives them mobility to jump into the larger companies, talk about how the large companies are using open source technologies. So this creates a very virtuous ecosystem. Everyone is contributing and giving back to each other. So you want to be part of this community as well. Now, next, let's talk about the cloud. We talk about agility, and cloud definitely improves that. Like Masadi shared, they were on the cloud, and being on the cloud gives additional benefits. Things like you can scale up and down really easily. The cloud is generally reliable. You don't need to have any hardware because the cloud payment model is a pay-as-you-go model. You don't have to have servers on your own. And this makes it easy for use cases like disaster recovery. You don't need to have different servers across different racks, different power sources. You don't need to have your own data centers across different regions. And the cloud empowers that setup can be done really easily. Now, when it comes to managed services, this is about taking away the operational burden from you. You don't have to worry about the maintenance, the patches, the upgrades, the scaling of the infrastructure. So all these things still needs to be done, but having a managed services will take away a huge burden of your team because you no longer have to stay up overnight, have people stand by 24/7. You have downtime when they're doing the patches, scaling. All those things are removed from you when you have like a proper managed services. And then you also don't have to worry about the reliability because these managed services come with reliable guarantees. And then you also have support engineers that's working around the clock for you. And the chances are, if there's any problem, there's really any problem for infrastructure, the infra team that you're paying for, the managed services team, they will have a higher chance of fixing it faster because they've been exposed to so many different customers around the world every single day. So they have the expertise of dealing with the infrastructure itself. Now, the last one I want to quickly touch on is about having a flexible data infrastructure. And this means having the ability to cater to changing workloads and business requirements on the fly. You want to make it easy to change your infrastructure. You want to scale up when you need to scale down where you don't need that much load. So in recent times, this also means that when we have the multi-cloud strategy coming into the picture, having a flexible data structure is about having the design in such a way that when you want to switch across different providers, when you want to have multiple clouds supporting your data infra and the background, all these things comes into the picture, and you want to have things like disaster recovery set up across multiple regions, multiple clouds. And this also builds confidence when you're talking to investors because it shows operational readiness. And the whole idea of having a flexible data infrastructure, managed services, makes all these things really easy to set up. We still have to worry about the strategy behind it, but you no longer have to worry about the nitty-gritty details of making sure everything is up and running at all times. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the answer, Chong. I think I would love to address the question from an anonymous attendee here. They asked, what's the first thing that we need to prepare when we want to set up a data team for the first time? I think this question applies to both, yeah, both for Chong and also for Adi. Who wants to take the question first? Mas Adi, do you want to answer?
Sure, sure. Uh, Let me get the question in more
Yeah.
detail. What the first thing that we need to prepare with? Yeah, so basically, before you start working on a system, right? You need to make sure that the data is well set up. The first thing that we need to have is probably um, we need to hire correct people, right? So we need to identify first the requirement for the system. For example, what kind of data that you need, what kind of processes that you will do in the application or the system that you've built, and then after you identified, you could uh, identify which role that needs to have in the data team. For example, probably if the data will be complex, then there are many processes included in the system. Probably you need to hire DBA, but usually I started with people who knows about the infrastructure first, and then set up the as Chong mentioned, we people in the universities are probably from the training, they have access to open source technologies, database, and all. So basically, uh, what I will do is to hire infrastructure engineers first, and then set up all the data uh, infrastructure data platform first, and then once it's scale up and once it is more complex, uh, then you might hire like TBA. And then if you need uh, a team to analyze the data or make sure the data can be a decision support system for the business as well, you probably need uh, business intelligence specialist, data engineer as well to ingest the data into the probably data warehouse or making as a data mart, and then data analyst to make sure the data can be processed. And then if you want to scale more, you want to build uh, probably machine learning model and uh, include some AI in your system, you could hire data scientists. But I would start with hiring infrastructure engineer to set up the data platform, because you need to start with the infrastructure, right? And then yeah, as John mentioned, also there are options to do to build that platform in cloud. You could just install it in the cloud infrastructure, your cloud infrastructure that you use, and you maintain it yourself. And the second one is the managed data platform, which managed service, which there are people who understand more about the data infrastructure, who has expertise about uh, having having reliable data infrastructure, data platform can that can scale. But when you do an experiment, probably you could start a little you could start small first by installing in your cloud infrastructure. That's why I suggest probably the infrastructure engineer.
Thank you, Masadi. So if I could summarize, it's first have the infrastructure engineers first, and then after that, if you want to expand or like to scale up, can do like maybe like machine learning or maybe even artificial intelligence later, in later stage. Yeah. Do you agree with this, John?
Oh, absolutely. It makes perfect sense. So I think it like Masadi said, right? The infrastructure piece is something that is important before you even analyze the data, sending the data through the different pipelines. You need that infrastructure to collect the data first. So that is actually really important. It also depends on the stage that your company is at right now, because if you are a team that start up with a couple of engineers and then you build your applications and infra on the go, chances are this will be the same people, the same developers that's managing and building our infrastructure. But as you grow up, you and scale up, you realize that these engineers are spending more time and more effort on the infrastructure side of things. They no longer have as much time in their sprints to work on more features, bug fixes, because they have to make sure the database is stable, is reliable. This is often a good sign that it's time to hire someone dedicated to managing the infrastructure. And then when you get someone in, you evaluate again. Okay, is this person enough to manage the current infrastructure? Are you built for scaling? Are they able to spend their time and effort on optimization, on the monitoring? So when all these different pieces come to the picture, you evaluate again on what's the next step. But as a very baseline, I would say my recommendation would be same as Masadi. The infrastructure engineer will be a very core piece. And then once you have an infrastructure engineer, you slowly build it up as you go along.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Masadi and Chong. I think since Chong also like mentioned about like this stage of the company, I think this could relate to the second question that someone sent in. When is the right timing for startups to leverage and manage data infrastructure? How early can it be? I think this would be a really interesting answer. Yeah.
Okay, I can take this first. Then Masadi can add on. So my view is that it again, it ties back to the stage that you're at right now. If you're just starting right out and you don't want to handle the infrastructure side of things, you can potentially use it, but it might not be the right timing for it, because if your workloads are small, you don't have too much data. Frankly speaking, you can manage it on your own. You don't have to pay an extra few $100s a month just to have someone manage that for you, because it's small anyway. I think there are many variables to all these, but most of the customers that we talk to, when they decide to move into managed data platforms, they already know that they have a scalability issue in mind. They came to us, they know that, okay, when I upgrade my database, when I do maintenance and patches, I'll have this amount of downtime. We cannot have this amount of downtime, because this amount of downtime equals this amount of money. All right. And then I have to have engineers on the weekend on standbys, and then my system will be down, my customer can't use it. So they will consider all these things in mind. And when they came over to us, they have a problem that they want to solve. So I think the baseline reason, if you will, that I would say to go for managed data platform is if you really have some problem that you need to be fixed. This is where you can talk to different people about it and find out if having a managed data platform will solve your problem. Yeah.
Interesting, Masadi. Would you like to add anything?
Yeah, so basically, yeah, I agree with Chong. Basically, if we start small, we could install the database itself in our cloud platform, right? The cloud platform that we choose, and then yeah, uh, I think when we need there are reliability factors and scalability factors place place in the part of the process, then you might need to think about using managed data infrastructure, because uh, it it seems for, initially the data platform that you manage your own looks cheaper than using managed services, right? But there are hidden costs in that. As Chong mentioned, the infrastructure engineer has to stand by, has to make sure it is up all day. Need to ensure that the alerting are well set up. If in case there are problem with the database itself, and probably with the cloud server itself, right? And once you grow and your infrastructure team member doesn't grow uh, as many as your system probably, or the complexity of system, I think that's the right time to look at the managed data infrastructure, because it initially it would be more expensive than when you manage your own, but later on, when it becomes too complex, it will be a burden for the infrastructure engineers to work on that, and probably you better assign your infrastructure engineer to work on uh, something more important to do, which is manage the system, whole system.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, thank you so much. We also like have another question here. Could you please give some examples of real world applications that leverage customer data platforms to attract new customers? Who'd love to take this question? I think Mas Adi would be the would love to take this question, since you're the one experiencing this.
Yeah, yeah, probably Chung has
Mhm.
also experiences on this part as well, because he works with many
Yeah.
startups, right? But what I can think about is that we could have probably CRM system, customer relationship manager system, which for example, we share uh, products to many people, right? For example, we share product to uh, through ads, through social media and all, and then we track who click that link or click that ads, and then we build the uh, recommendation system. So basically, if you look at this way, if for example we share uh, iPhone ads to random people, and then some people are clicking those ads, but not buying, uh, means they have interest in that kind of categories or that kind of devices, and then you build your recommendation system to help you to identify which potential customer which you could share that type of ads. So basically, yeah, um, if we look at that way, then we will build uh, a customer data platform, which also for example, if the people has buy the device, and we could also collect the demographic of the people, of the customer who buy the device, you could also make it make the recommendation system where this kind of demographics prefers this kind of thing, this kind of demographics prefer this kind of thing, and then you could all you could improve the system to attract new customers. So basically, that's probably the high level answer, because
Thank
yeah, there are a lot of things.
Yeah, thank you. So it's to identify customer, to make more targeted ads, yeah, to make more targeted recommendations, I would say, like in Evermos's case.
Yeah.
Do you know like any other use cases, John? Maybe like from your experience in Aiven handling many startups?
So what Masadi mentioned is really the core of it, which is leveraging on data to build recommendation engine, to build pipelines to send data to different places for different use cases. So some of the more popular real world applications that are using this sort of model, we just refer to the big tech companies, Netflix, Disney. We talk about the recommendation engine, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. There's really a lot of examples of platforms out there that harness data to build better recommendation engines, do analytics on the potential customer base on the existing product. You talk about e-commerce, we have things like what's the age group, what's the gender, which locations, some certain areas of people like certain products more. Then we talk about the same model, extrapolate, put it into, let's say, a coffee house. You talk about some of the more visual native coffee chains. What they would do is that they can even do things like, okay, what's the weather like today? What sort of drinks are we going to sell? What's the percentage of people that's going to order this drink, cold latte versus a hot latte? So all this data will be fed back into the data warehouse, and then they can have data scientists, data analysts to pull the data out and do meaningful work on it. So the customer data platforms, there are really a lot of examples out there, and I think if you are building that kind of model as a startup, it's important to identify what sort of data you want to collect first, and you also want to make sure that you might not want to collect it today, but you want to make sure that when it is time to scale up and expand into collecting new data, you have designed your system and applications so that it's easy to tweak and adjust to it. You don't want to design your stuff in a way whereby next time if you want to expand and collect new data, you have to rewrite your entire application and database. That's going to cost you a lot of headache and trouble. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, yeah, as John mentioned it, like Netflix, all Netflix and all like Spotify and all marketplaces do this in their daily businesses, right? They spread probably ads or recommendation to certain people, and then yeah, they attract people to if marketplace we call it impulsive buying, and become they're part of customer because that that kind of ad interest them, but maybe not in the right time to buy. But when you build that confidence level to the recommendation, it would probably lend you customers one day, because you know the interest of people by looking at the data.
Interesting. Now that we have addressed maybe like the obstacles that are solved by managed data infrastructure, I think I would love to to shine the light on like the other things as well, right? Like such as like the challenges in managing database in cloud. Do you want to share, maybe Mas Adi or Chang?
Yeah. Let me go first. So basically, we start out using cloud infrastructure at the initial of Evermos, right? So we already use managed service, managed data platform from the start. And yeah, as we scale, what we need the most is initially we need reliability and scalability. And yeah, after we could achieve that using the managed service, managed data platform that we use, we found out new problems. We want to know more about cost, the cost transparency, because it is easy to scale up using the data platform, managed data platform, but as a side effect, you might get uncontrolled costs, because everything can be solved by scale up and scale up and scale up. And when you don't have cost transparency on using the managed services, because there are hidden costs that associated with the data platform, it probably uh, difficult for us to achieve cost efficient uh, data platform or infrastructure. And then the second one in my use case is that we are using Kubernetes as on top of the cloud data platform that we use. All of the application is a stateless service, which you could migrate anywhere from one cloud providers to other cloud providers, right? But for the stateful service, for the persistent layer, which is data platform, uh, it is quite difficult for you to migrate from one to another. And our use cases is we don't want to uh, make this is difficult for us if we want to change cloud providers, and we are looking for alternative solution for the managed data platform, which can be agnostic in some way possible. Yeah, that's basically our use cases using managed data platform.
John, would you like to add anything?
Yeah, okay. So yeah, it's like what Masadi said. So sometimes even when you're using managed data platforms, right, there are still problems such as cost transparency and difficulty in migration, especially if you are using a managed services from one particular provider. They have the incentive to keep you within their ecosystem and not recommend you to be exposed to other providers. So this is definitely one problem if you are already using managed services. If you're not using managed services, we also briefly talk about this in the previous questions. We talk about things like managing backups is difficult because when you have different cloud providers, if they're all from different vendors, you have another different layers to think about, different storage, different vendors have different APIs. We talk about cost complexity. If you're already using one single cloud provider, it can be quite complex to manage costs on a single provider. But imagine having multiple providers, the cost complexity just increases. And this is definitely a huge challenge that many of our customers face when we talk to them. You also need to ensure that your database are highly available. We talk about how you can create replica across different region. And when you have the use case, when you want to have business requirement to set up disaster recovery across different clouds, if you are tied to a single vendor, self-managed, you realize that okay, suddenly that can be quite a challenge, and there's no easy way to create your backups across different clouds. And then we also want to talk about monitoring. And if you want to monitor a database to keep track of database health, you want to take note of whether your CPU is spiking, your RAM is spiking. You need to plan for upgrades and patches, and you think about your downtime management. So all these things can be done if you're managing on your own, but it gets a little bit trickier because you have to dedicate people to sit down there and really think about all these kind of things. Whereas if you're using a managed provider, you'll take away some of these headaches for you, because when we hit certain threshold, they'll start giving you warnings saying that, hey, your database seems to be hitting is spiking here and there. Are you sure everything is fine? Can you take a look at it? So this really frees up time for your engineering team, your infra team, to work on other key priorities, and then other priorities that can help your business scale to the next level. Yeah.
Awesome. There's one interesting question in the Q&A. What would you recommend open source? And to Mas Adi, how has your experience been with using managed services? I think this would be a really interesting question.
Yeah, probably I could answer. For my experience using managed data platform, managed services, right? As I mentioned before, the issue is not how reliable it is, how scalable it is, but how you could work around cost efficient data or managed service, right? Because you could scale the data platform into a scale that you probably never think about before, because yeah, it is practically limitless, right? But the associated cost that uh, comes with that scale is very huge, because even managed services uh, offer many benefits than when you manage yourself. You need to ensure that the cost associated with it is makes sense for you and your businesses, right? Yeah. But overall, impression using managed services, they help a lot, because we don't have a special team who handle the data. We only have infrastructure engineers. Um, so we only have few infrastructure engineers. We have a lot of services, a lot of application that we uh, create, we build, but we only have like 4 to 5 infrastructure engineers. So yeah, it is there were a lot using the managed services, but yeah, you need to make sure that the associated costs makes sense, because you could scale up, you could scale down uh, as many time you like to suit your needs, but you need to ensure also you sometimes when you work using develop new system, and then the system is not optimized at the first initial launch, it would be okay. You could back it up using you could scale your data platform or data infrastructure using the managed service that you choose. You need to think for the longer term, for the uh, long period of time. Is this something that okay with your businesses, or you need to think about how to make it more cost efficient? So basically, more to cost efficiency. The issue with managed data services, yeah, around cost and efficiency.
Yeah. That I do hear that a lot, yeah, around the cost in managing data. Chang, do you want to add, chime in?
Yeah, I would just like to add that I think part of the reason why Masadi really like using Aiven's data platform is that we are very transparent with the cost. So what happens with some of the data platform is like they give you a line item for the infrastructure cost, and then there's also other costs like networking, storage, backups. All these are different line items that can quickly blow out of proportion, especially when you scale up, like what Masadi mentioned. So what we do on our platform is that we are 100% transparent for price. Whatever price you see is the price that you'll pay at the end of the month. It includes all the networking, egress, backups. All those prices is included in the item that you see, and with managed services as well. So the feedback that we gotten from many of our customers is that this allows them to better predict their costs. And when our customers are better able to predict their costs, it helps them to grow faster as well, because they don't have to do that much planning around figuring out the different line items for different costing. So I do agree with Masadi that cost efficiency and cost transparency is a very huge factor when deciding to work on managed platforms, because even though they might solve the problem that you want, can you really, is the price really what they claim it is to be? So this is something that you have to be aware of at the back of your head. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. We still have 5 minutes left, but we still have two questions left, but the time is running up. So I think the questions that many have asked is, how does Ivan help Evermos scale? I mean, like the implementation using like Ivan software, and how does it contributes to the scale up journey of Evermos?
Yeah, as I mentioned before, we have new initiative, we have new platform that we are building to help grow brands and professional resellers, right? We we engage with Aiven at the time it is marinating. So we are talking with, I forget, one of the business consultant or account manager of Avon, right? And then we think it offers many interesting features, many interesting benefit that we could have, because we could scale like the one we have before, but in terms of flexibility, even offers more flexibility, because you could host the database in several cloud platform without having you tied down with the cloud platform. Because when we are right now, we are using cloud provider, one cloud provider, and we use the minute service in that cloud provider with the even features that enable us to try to um, uh, run the database in other cloud providers. It gives us flexibility in terms of pricing as well, because when as Chong mentioned, they have transparent pricing, so we could predict how much additional cost that we will have using this cloud platform, using the alternate cloud platform that uh, uh, Avon provided. Also, the the advantages is that we could customize. It is still a bit early, because we are engaging with even I think at the start of the year, but they have provide support for us, like customizing the database, customizing the scale of the database, so we could get customized uh, specification of the data platform based on the workload that we need, and it helped us to uh, ensure that it is cost efficient enough for us. And yeah, basically it start with experiment, because we are have worked with the minute service, and it is okay, yeah, but we need alternative, and when probably we change cloud provider, how we could migrate it without probably having downtime, probably uh, if not avoidable, we could have only minimum downtime, because we don't have to migrate the persistent layer of the system, right? So that's why we try to look alternative, like Avon.
Thank you, Masadi. Maybe like to summarize, so it's more of like the minimum downtime and also cost transparency, right? Like from your side. Chong, do you want to add anything?
Um, I think Mas Adi pretty much summed it up. I would say it is about, you know, at the end of the day, you need to figure out the objective of what you're trying to do. And then if you're unsure, actually just feel free to reach out to the different providers. You can reach out to to Aiven as well, and we can talk through about some of these things that may or may not be suitable for you, but you can start thinking about, you know, whether managed data platform is something that you can use as an experimental approach. So when we talked to Mas Adi, he came to us. He mentioned that he's already doing, you know, he was already running databases on the cloud, on managed services, and he just wanted to had a feel of how things are. So this means that now one way you can do that is my colleague just dropped a link in the webinar chat, and then you can access the link to sign up for a completely free trial with $500 worth of credits. You can start spinning up the infrastructure and start, you know, connecting to it within a couple of minutes, and then you can experiment and to see how that works out for you. And then if you have any problems, just feel free to reach out. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Masadi. Thank you so much, Chong, for the very interesting discussion today. I hope this can enlighten everyone about leveraging data in startups and also how to scale the business while leveraging the managed data infrastructure. A bit of info. So this session is recorded, and also we will be uploading it on our YouTube channel, Endeavor Indonesia's YouTube channel, and we'll share it with everyone. So stay tuned in our social media channels, Instagram at Endeavor_Indo. And yeah, we're signing off for today. Again, thank you so much, Masadi. Thank you so much, Chong, you know, for the time that I've spent with us, sharing everything about the data infrastructure. And see you all again at other events from the Scale Up Growth Program. Stay safe and healthy, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thanks for
Take
having me. Thanks,
care.
Pasadi. Thanks everyone.